Good evening. Tonight is August 13th, 2020. This is the monthly teleconference and meeting of the ASCA Board of Directors. Present tonight are Denise, Gina, Jan, Jean, Judy, Rachel, Rick, Warren, and Carol is also joining us. So welcome to Carol. And of course, Kala is also here. And myself, Liz. So we have a very full agenda tonight. And for those who are joining us for the first time, the way we do this is we'll go down the list, down the agenda, and discuss every item. If there is a motion or any voting to be done, we do that. And I usually allow the directors, go by one and state their opinions or comments as it is needed. So the first item on the agenda tonight is last month's email business.
This is Jean. I move to approve last month's email business.
This is Gina. I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion by Jean, seconded by Gina, to approve last month's email business. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries. The next item will be the computer system update, and for that is we have Warren.
Hi, yeah, similar to my last item, I did send some info out right at the last minute. Essentially, Inventive continues to work on trying to keep our system updated, and they have some details in the notes on that. I think the important thing for me, we had a proposal from Inventive to sort of start and build us a new platform. They call it a platform rebuild, and this would give us I guess a starting point from where, when we have questions about having, for instance, virtual titles or having things that we don't want to count for Hall of Fame but do want to count in some other way, it would give us the ability to have that flexibility. So something that we really want, and I think something we really need. But the sense of the board from the prior meeting was we were going to let Inventive know that at this point we weren't moving forward. So I drafted a note on that, and Ray is prepared to send it to Inventive with our kind regards, and just let them know that right now is not the right time. I think I will say, and I said in my note, I think this work is incredibly important. As we look here this year and maybe envision a $150,000 loss, that's an expense of money that just goes away and never comes back. I would feel so much better if the cash went out and created a new computer system. So I'm not opposed to so-called losses, and I think I would be really pleased if next year we were spending money on a computer system that got us in a place so that we could move forward even whilst in the middle of COVID. But for now, unless I'm mistaken, I think the sense of the board is we're not going to move forward with that this month. So I sent them a very kind note and said we'd get back to them when we're ready.
All right, any questions for Warren?
This is Gina. I don't have a question, but I thought that was an excellent letter. Thank you.
This is Rachel. I also have a comment for Warren. Warren, you've done an outstanding job of picking this up, and I really, really do appreciate your agreeing to take this over because it's very important. This is ASCA's future. And so I agree with you 100%. If we must have a loss, let's have a loss for a good reason. And getting the update completed, call it a rewrite, call it a update, call it whatever you want. I do not care what we call it. But the only thing I want is for the ASCA members to be able to benefit from this going forward. When the members benefit, ASCA will benefit. So thank you so very much, Warren. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Rachel.
Anybody
Hey,
else?
Warren, this is Rick.
Go ahead, Rick.
Hey, Warren, would you like to let the members know what kind of estimate they gave us for that rewrite?
Yeah, sure. So for anybody listening, the proposal, which did include a complete rewrite of both the internal use of the system and how the members would interface with it. So it was a very comprehensive proposal, but it was $315,000. So this is not insignificant. At the same time, when we look at the assets of ASCA, to me, we are very heavily weighted in cash and in investments. Investments meaning not things that we benefit from, just non-cash liquid assets. And so I do think as a treasurer, it is a reasonable recommendation that we move some of our liquid investments to property, plant, and equipment, which would mean things like a software platform rebuild. Now, just because we're heavily weighted doesn't mean now's the time to spend all our cash. But I do think it's very reasonable. The membership should know that it's, it is normal for a company to have more in terms of fixed assets than liquid assets. And in our case, our fixed assets, I think, net out at about 93,000, and our liquid assets are more like 500 to 600. So we are very heavily weighted in essentially non-productive assets. And so long term, I think this does make sense, even at 300K.
And I'd like to have another couple of questions. Correct me if I'm wrong, but to date, we've spent with Frog Slayer somewhere in the neighborhood of $250,000, and we've already spent with Inventive to another 100,000+. So what we're looking at is $750,000. And from the proposal from Inventive, from what I understand, they said they're not 100% guaranteed that building on this platform will take care of our needs.
Yeah, Rick. That's really insightful. There are no guarantees on this. This is probably the biggest risk that any of us on the board will ever have to face. But it's a risk in two directions. So we risk spending an enormous amount of money that we really, at 300 out of 600, we kind of have two chances, but really we have one chance to get this right. At the same time, if we don't do it, how do we move forward, and how do we keep our systems running? And the money that we're spending now, as you mentioned with Inventive, I don't have a total bill to Inventive, but I've looked at the recent P&Ls, and I can see 150 is a reasonable estimate. We spent that money just to keep ourselves from falling down a hole. So, at some point we have to stop throwing dirt in the hole and start building a building. And yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a big risk. It's something the board should take very seriously. But if we don't do something, one of us is going to be in the place of having to explain why it doesn't work anymore.
If I can interject here really quick, Warren, I thought that Inventive also said that keeping what they have been doing with the current program, also they could also not guarantee that they could ever fix it completely. Am I correct in that assumption? Because I thought that's what I read.
My assumption is if something went horribly wrong right now, we would start by scribbling things down on paper and work from there.
Yeah. And so what I understood was that what they can do piecemeal, right? And a couple of the things that they have done piecemeal, and any updates that we do to this particular current program, they can't guarantee that it will work very well, and they can't guarantee that they can give us everything that we need. Was that I mean, so it's kind of like there's a risk either way. What's my understanding?
There's a risk either way, Liz. I don't know, I'm not using the system, but I kind of read into Inventive's comments on that of, hey, let's consider the risk of your current system failing as being more important. So they're certainly selling that. That's their job. I think we have to be cognizant of that. To me, and I think to Rick's point, the biggest risk is we try to do this and fail. Similar to, and I don't know the history of the Frog Slayer, but we put a lot of money in and we don't get much out. That's a failure that we have to somehow make sure that we can't go down that road. And that's why at this point, sending them a note and saying we're not going to move forward. I used the excuse of COVID to buy us some time, and it's not just an excuse. I mean, really, I couldn't, in good faith, vote to spend $300,000.
Right.
Where we are right now. But it does kind of buy us some time to see, do we have the structures in place to really make really a huge project for a company our size, to make a huge project successful. It needs to be successful if we're going to do it.
Yeah. And
Liz, this is Rachel. Whenever
Rachel.
we have an opportunity, I would like to comment.
Go ahead.
And Warren, I would like to remind everyone that we've all agreed that going forward, there will be discrete system upgrades, overwrites, call it whatever you will, and those will run alongside our current system until the business office has confirmed that they are valid and working prior to paying the final payment on each discrete portion of the system that they do. So we're trying to do this differently than we did Frog Slayer, in that we're not just going to accept the fact that, okay, the next payment's due. We are actually going to ensure that we have gotten what we have paid for prior to finishing up payment for each discrete portion of the system upgrade. And I would also remind folks that what you're saying is absolutely true. The ADMS system is running, but if there's a failure in that portion of the system, it would be catastrophic for ASCA. And so I agree that as soon as we are able to allocate the funds and we think it's safe to move forward, we really do need to start forward with the new system override, upgrade, call it whatever you will. Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. And the thing that the members probably should also understand is that the way that Inventive proposed this was that it was going to be divided in like 4 or 5 different groups of upgrades that they would do at a time. And so, I mean, in succession. So they would do one section of it, and then, the office will have to, as Rachel said, test everything. And if it was working, that section was working, then sure, we will pay for that section. And then they will go to the next section, and the same thing would be done, and so on. So just so that, the members have an idea of what the board is going to have to be thinking about in the next few months regarding the system. Thank you, Warren. Any other questions for Warren? Okay, seems like we're done with the computer system. So let's go to the next item, which is the remaining 2021 finals judges. And Rick?
Yes, we have 2 remaining slots for judges that we need to get filled. I'd like to make a couple of motions tonight. The first one is for the agility finals judge. That would be Roger Coor. And I would like to make a motion to approve Roger Coor as the agility finals judge for 2021 agility finals.
All right. We have a motion on the floor by Rick to approve Rick Coor to be the agility finals for judge for 2021. Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Go ahead, Rick.
Okay. And the last one is for the junior finals judge. I would like to make a motion to approve junior judge Brian Elliott to be the 2021 finals judge for juniors.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is by Rick and is to approve Grant Elliott, I thought you said, for the juniors finals judge for the 2021 finals. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Rick. Okay, so the next item, let's see. Oh, the next item, I'll have to bring it up. It's the blood samples stored at Therion. So let me provide the members some kind of, information, of background information about this. Since we are changing to PopRints, PopRints is not going to be storing the samples in the same manner as Therion has for however many years. And so what the board is faced with at this time is with a decision about what to do with the thousands of blood samples that are currently stored at Therion. Okay, so like I said, we're talking thousands of tubes. The ones that were on blood cards have been sent to Brian and are at the business office as we speak. So those are in the hands of the business office if we ever need to reprocess any of those. The blood samples, however, are a big problem. First, because we're talking about thousands of dollars that is going to take to bring all those samples to Texas. The other issue is that some of those samples are extremely old, probably not that great. The blood samples have been stored as blood samples. In other words, many labs, what they do is that they take the sample, they get the DNA out of it, and then the DNA is what they store, okay? But in the case of Therion, they just put the blood samples in a refrigerator for however many years. And so they're not that great. So we sent a random sampling, a very small random sampling to PopRints. Therion took a long time. It just took a long time for them to send it to PopRints. And so I talked to Lisa today, Lisa Schaefer from PPG, and she told me that all but one, they have been able to extract DNA from all but one sample so far. However, that is just the step of extracting DNA. And that is not surprising. I mean, we can get DNA from a mammoth that has been, frozen for thousands of years. The issue is whether that DNA sample that has been extracted is going to be good enough to be able to get a profile. And so at this point, I wish I could give you an answer whether they came out, a complete flop or not, but I can't because they have not finished with that. So at this moment, I can't tell you whether they were they were able to get a good profile from them or not. But regardless of whether, how, oh, and by the way, she said that, there was one of them that was like pretty dried up and like in pieces, and so it was not in good shape, but they were able to extract DNA from one of the pieces of it. So, so that's what we have as far as the sampling is concerned. Okay, but even if some of those samples are viable, the question that the board needs to consider is whether it is worth it to spend thousands of dollars in bringing them to Brian. So what will that entail? So I'm trying to get the membership to understand what this is going to entail. It's going to entail buying at least 3 large refrigerators that will be, put in the office somewhere in the back. And then Therion would have to, what they actually said to us was that they would basically put them in a box and send them via either UPS or the post office. And then we will have to take them out of the box with no refrigeration or anything like that, because that will cost even more. And then we will take those and put them in our refrigerators in Bryan. To do this, besides the packaging material and the actual shipping, Therion is going to invoice ASCA $50 an hour. Okay, so when we're talking about thousands, it's going to be a lot of hours. So that also is added to the cost. So we have tremendous cost in shipping, tremendous cost in buying the refrigerators, and tremendous cost for us to pay Therion to actually do the handling. So that is what the board is faced with today in making some kind of decision regarding the blood samples. So I'm just going to go around and I'm going to allow everybody to say what they think about the situation. Denise?
Liz, can you get back to me? I have a customer here right now.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Thank you.
And Gina?
Hi. Okay. First of all, it's my understanding that whole blood, no matter how it is stored, breaks down over time. So there's a good chance that the viability of those samples stored, most of them are not going to be able to help if need be. The other thing is, since all the samples there are stored or from dogs that are already VP or CP, I don't see the need to really spend that amount of money to have them sent to Brian and then to have them stored there. I just don't see the reason that we need to do that. So that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Gina. Jan?
I really don't have much to add to what Gina stated. As long as I think the viability of this, how much longer would we have to wait to get an answer from Paw Prince
She said
on actual results?
She said next week.
Next week. So is there a possibility we wait till we know out of that group of samples?
It is.
So that's it for me.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Jan. Jean?
Yeah, I know that waiting until next week is kind of taking it to the wire, but I think it would make our decision making a little bit easier if we knew if they were viable or not. But as Gina stated, the whole reason we have these samples is these dogs were DNA profiled at some point. I think and since going forward, starting with PPG, that there's not going to be a comparison with parentage, unless the parents have already been. So, it's a legitimate point to say, I'm not sure what use it would be to expend all that money to bring these samples out to Brian. So that's really all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay. Judy?
I have two questions.
Yes,
Did we
ma'am.
determine if the samples belong to the owners or to ASCA?
Oh, well, we never had quite an answer on that, because the thing about it is initially the samples were stored because people were signing that form in which they went ahead and said, we want the samples for research, okay? But that was later changed. And so ASCA at some point years ago decided that, well, we'll just keep them all. And so those samples are kind of like in limbo, really, because, that there's no.
And
Okay.
ASCA's been paying the storage on them.
Yes, ASCA, that's another thing that is being, what, $1,500 a quarter or whatever the heck it is.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Then my second
ASCA has
question
been, yes, ma'am.
is, for those of you who do work in biological research, do we know how long that blood will be good if it is shipped and transported without refrigeration? Like,
Well,
will it be damaged to the point where it will be unusable when it gets here?
Not long.
Well, that's a hard question, okay? And I'll tell you, blood does not keep well, okay? Usually, criminal labs, for example, will keep samples from crimes and stuff for a long time, and sometimes they get good DNA yield out of their years later, and a lot of times they don't. And so we have two problems here. First, that they have been just in a refrigerator, for some of them for 15 years. And then second, that they are going to be shipped with no refrigeration. And the way that things are going out right now, if we want to have them here the next day, then we will have to FedEx them at a very high price, right? And even then, nobody can guarantee that is going to be good. Like I said before, there is a difference between being able to get DNA extraction, because from most samples you can at least get something as long as you have enough of it, right? Enough sample. You can get DNA. The question is whether that DNA is going to be good enough for it to go through the process and give us, an answer on the markers.
Right. Okay. So
So it's kind of like, yeah.
my opinion would be then, perhaps we should ask PPG is if these blood samples are sent and it takes 4 or 5 days to get here without refrigeration, is it possible to get viable DNA? If it is not, I see no reason to ship them. If it is, then I think that's an option we really need to explore.
Yeah, I can ask them, but I can tell you what she's probably going to say. There's
Can
no
I
way to
say?
tell you exactly, and there's no way to guarantee that there will be. Like I said, you may be able to get DNA out of it, but that doesn't mean that you'll be able to profile from it. Yeah.
Can I
Gina?
make a comment?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you weigh the expense to get the stuff there versus why do we even need it, it just doesn't seem to be feasible. It doesn't seem like it should even, it just shouldn't happen. But the other thing is, if a carrier like FedEx or a common carrier, if they lose that, or if you know, in the middle of a heat wave and it's not viable, they're not going to hold or pay for any liability. I can tell you that much right now. I think their maximum liability would be 10 cents a pound. So that's all you would get from them if anything happened. So that's just something else to think about.
Okay, thanks, Gina. Do you have anything else, Judy?
Nope, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Rachel?
And Gina brought up the point that I was going to bring up. Shipping this time of year, regardless of where you are, a box gets stuck in the shipping cycle for 3 days, you're going to have ruined blood when it arrives wherever it is, because blood is a tenuous product anyway. And I just cannot see the viability of those samples that were thrown helter-skelter in those refrigerators for how long, and they were not in any kind of order. They were not well cared for from what I saw from the pictures. And so I just really can't see, since all of these dogs are VP and CP, the reason why we would add this expense to ASCA at this point, when we are trying our best to save money and make compensation to save money. So unless, and if even one of those samples, if one of the samples are viable that come out next week, maybe we consider, but I just don't see the point of it. Not when we know what those dogs are and they already have their designations. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Rachel. Rick?
I kind of agree with what everybody else said, so I really don't have anything to comment.
Okay, thanks, Rick. Warren?
Yeah, I can't hear anything that says let's support this expense. I guess if somebody wanted to say, you know, there's a certain dollar value there, you know, over the years we have gained by storing these things, but it doesn't sound like there's anything to it except you know, the potential for research, which, you know, I don't mean to discard that as a reason, but you know, given that we're thinking about finances, I don't see how doing this helps us in any way that offsets the cost. So I think I'm not in favor of moving the samples, regardless of their viability.
Okay, thanks, Warren. Just before I allow Carol to speak, just one more comment that Ray has told me that over the years, there have been very, very few of those samples that the office had to go back and ask them to rerun them. Like maybe, you know, just a couple of samples where that has happened. So out of thousands, you know, maybe they have had to, you know, ask them to rerun a couple of them. So that's another thing to consider. Okay, Carol?
Liz, I'm sorry, Liz, this is Denise.
Oh.
Could I say something real quickly, because I've got to go back outside again?
Sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Carol.
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
Sorry, just 1 second, please. So I'm in total agreement with the fact that when you look at the fact that these dogs have already been DNA VP'd and CP'd and certified for it, the fact that we don't know for sure even if they're viable, and we certainly can't transport them safely and effectively with any guarantee we're going to get them. And when you overnight something, they don't even guarantee that they get it there overnight. And the expense, I would decline. I think that we have what we need, and we can move on with paw prints. And that's my information that I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Okay, Carol?
Okay, so I thought Denise, everybody's had great points, and the only thing I would say to add to that is that when they signed to have the blood put into storage for future research, basically, to me, that would indicate to me that the owner had given up, like they gave permission to do with whatever. Like it didn't say, well, we're going to come back and ask you if you want to do it on a specific project or some specific type of research. So if that blood had already been sent out to a research project, it would be gone anyway. So, I mean, I don't have a vote on this because I'm not on a vote, but I would certainly say that I mean, it just, to me, it's common sense that given the fact that there's the shipping, the expense, the viability, yeah, I would say pretty much if they signed off to put it for future research use, it could already be gone now if it had gone somewhere or something. So I don't see any reason why you would want to keep that. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Carol. Yeah, that's another thing. To my knowledge, none of them have been sent to research for any reason. And probably the reason for that is that most researchers are going to want a fresh sample coming in. So say that you want to do a research on epilepsy. You will probably want as many dogs in the line as you have living and get a sample from each one of them. Because like I said, you know, when you have blood stored in this manner and not the DNA, it makes it very difficult, okay? And they might be wasting their time if they are using, you know, blood like this. And so that's probably one of the reasons why this has not been used. And it's because most researchers are gonna ask, you know, send me samples that are, you know, from the line and from the brothers and sisters in the litter and all of that. But fresh samples are always preferred.
Liz, can I say one more thing? This
Yeah,
is Gina.
go ahead.
Sorry, I always have so much to say. The part about the research, that was stopped many, many years ago. So most of the blood that has been submitted and is in storage is not there for research, and it wasn't signed over for research. So that's just something to think about. But I still don't see the reason to keep it. There's just no reason to keep it. But that's all I wanted to point out.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that most of you want to still wait until next week till we get the results. Is that correct? Does anybody have any other opinion on that?
This is Jean. I could go either way. Whatever you decide as a whole is fine with me.
Yeah, that's fine with me too.
Okay. Well, that doesn't help me.
Hey, Liz,
I would prefer
Rachel,
to
can we revisit this next week after we get the
certainly
results?
can, but we're gonna have to make a special, you know,
Right.
a special meeting for that, because we can't use. I mean, using an
Yeah.
emergency motion is gonna be, you know, a problem. And then we, you know, today is the 13th already. So let's say 7 days more, it'll be the 20th.
Okay, so in that
We're
case,
getting
then
close.
I'm going to vote to discard the blood.
Make a motion and I'll second it.
Make a motion.
All right,
Yeah,
this,
that's a good idea. I would
right.
agree to do that also.
I'm
Let's
going
do
to
that.
make a motion that the blood samples currently stored at Therion be discarded versus bringing them back to the ASCA office.
I will second that. This is Gina.
All right.
And
So we have.
And if we need comments on that, we can use all of the comments that came from the board about viability, the shipping of the samples, and the fact that they've been there for years and the cost associated.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor by Rachel, seconded by Gina, to direct Therion to dispose of the samples stored at the Therion facility. Is there any discussion? And by the way, I haven't given my opinion, so I'm going to give it here very fast. My opinion is that the samples have not been stored in the best way, that even if there's some of them that are viable and we could go back to get DNA from. Even that is not a guarantee that we'll get a profile from. That the cost is going to be more than the benefit that we're going to get from shipping the samples back to Brian. So that's my on it. So any other discussion? The motion is on the floor. Okay, no discussion. That means we go to a vote. Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. We'll talk to Ray and I will talk to David about our decision. And we'll let you know what happens so that they can, let Therion know what the decision is, and then we'll let you know what happens after that. So, all right. So the next one is the ASCA Nationals website, and that will be Rick and Rachel.
Rachel, do you want to handle this?
Yeah, I can, or you can. It doesn't matter to me, whichever one.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. And we have the document that Laura sent on the OneDrive, where she had said that since this is ASCA's Nationals going forward, and since it would not put a burden on our webmaster, she would prefer that this be on the ASCA website. And there was some conversation about the fact that there might be some directors that may not want to see the ads on the ASCA website. And what she said about that was, these are the people that are sponsoring ASCA. They're sponsoring the function for ASCA. So that would be her preference, okay? And if the board chose not to go to that methodology, she said they had used a separate website in the past, and it would be ASCAintheyear.com. But if we do that, we will have to pay a hosting fee. Whereas using the ASCA.org, we pay no hosting fee on that because we own that. And she also went on and pointed out that we had bought the domain name ASCAnationals.com, but she does not believe that that would be a good choice for us because it would not have the year, and it may be confusing to people if they specifically went back and looking, for a specific like 2020 or 2021 or a specific year. So Laura's choice was to use the ASCA.org site to host this information on and add this to the webmaster's duties. So that's all I have. Rick, do you have anything?
Yeah, I just want to kind of piggyback on that I believe somebody had mentioned or was a little bit concerned about Heidi's updating of this website and that it may increase her hours. From what Heidi has told us, she is not getting close to her 25-hour limit each month right now. So this wouldn't be an issue for Heidi.
Okay, and so I just have one. I just have one question about that, and it's whether, the sponsorships and stuff like that. They do have a sponsorship person, right? That is going to manage that, right?
Yeah.
That is correct. They have a sponsorship chair, but that information would also be added in to the Nationals, to the portion of the Nationals. It would be in the Nationals portion of the website.
Sure, it will be on that one link under ASCA Nationals 2021.
Yes. Right.
And then they will manage the sponsorship. So the only thing that Heidi will be doing was revising the information now and then to make sure that it's current and all that.
That's my understanding. Yes,
just so
ma'am.
you guys know, just so you guys know, Heidi is the sponsorship chair for 2021.
Yeah, but
Oh,
that's
well.
only 2021. I mean, if we make
Yeah.
this decision, we're probably going to make it for all. So, you know, it doesn't make sense to just make a decision for 2021. You know, if this works, I think that we should just leave it like that. So she would have this job.
And Liz, to that
webmaster.
to that point, I would say going forward, if Heidi saw that it was going to place her hours over her normal 25 hours, I mean, I'm sure that she would come back to the board and say, hey guys, I may have to extend my hours, or what do you want me to do because I'm going over the hours. So I think she would be diligent in reporting back to the board if that were needed.
Yes, I agree with that. I mean, she will let us know. As long as she's not the one actually, you know, always managing the stuff that goes in there, just making sure that, yes, she's a sponsorship chair for this year, but, you know, the rest, it should be only a matter of her making sure that the stuff gets put on the website and then that is current. So she wouldn't be like, okay. All right.
Yeah.
That makes
Liz,
me
also, just remember that she's only going to be doing that for a couple of months. It's not
Right.
like an all year round thing. And so being the chair for the Nationals sponsorship is the time consuming portion. Putting those sponsorships onto the website is sort of the secondary part of it. So I would think that she would be pretty good with that. And I agree, if she's going to go over her 25, I'm sure she'd say something.
Yeah.
And Liz, my recommendation would be let's go ahead and try it for 1 year. If
Sure.
we see that it's a disaster, the next we'll have to make that change. But I think we give it a try.
Yeah.
Are you going around, or this, Jan? I have a question.
Go ahead, Jan. Ask your question.
So are you going to have this like a separate page, so it will be always on the ASCA website as Nationals 2021? Is that the idea that they're showing, or it would go away? Do you know what the idea behind this platform
It would be a link, right? It would be a link, Jan. It would be a link on the website. And as the year changes, of course, it would change on the website. But that way, it always remains on the ASCA.org website, because it is ASCA now. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Any other questions for Rachel or Rick?
Liz, we can go ahead and make a motion if you want us to. You want to make a motion, Rick, or you want me to do it?
Sure, I'll go ahead. I would like
Go.
to. Okay, I would like to make the motion. Starting in 2021, all Nationals material will be hosted on the ASCA.org website.
I'll second
And I will
that,
second
Denise.
that. Oh,
I guess we'll let Rachel second it. She's the website.
Sorry. So I have just a question real quickly, Denise. This is Denise.
Yeah.
I think that you should say, Rick, that it's for the 2021 Nationals in your motion rather than the year 2021.
Okay. Well, I thought I said all 2021 Nationals material will be hosted.
Yeah, right. Perfect.
On the ASCA.org.
Yeah, perfect.
Can you read it back to us, Carla, to make sure?
Motion by Rick that all 2021 Nationals material will be hosted on the ASCA.org website. Second by Rachel.
Okay, there you have it. So we have a motion on the floor by Rick and seconded by Rachel to have all the 2021 Nationals, ASCA Nationals material onto the ASCA website, ASCA.org. Is there any other discussion?
This is Judy. I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So if this is going to be on the ASCA website, is it going to remain there so that we can go look at past nationals, or is it going to disappear? Because one thing that I find difficult about the nationals websites we've had is that when there's a link on the ASCA.org page, but then you go to it, but then you have to remember what was the link last year, what was the link before that. So is this information, this is going to be a link that leads us to the page on the ASCA website. Will that information be stored for every national?
I would think she could create an archive.
Judy, this is Rachel. Since I'm Heidi's liaison, I will make a strong suggestion to her that that information be retained on the ASCA website. And like we said, so you can go back and look, you can look at 2021, you can look at 2022, so forth and so on, as a historical guide. The same as a lot of the old information is currently on the website that you can look at.
Thank you.
I think that what Heidi would probably end up doing is making a separate page that's just for nationals. That would be like asca.org/nationals.
Right.
And then on that page,
Yeah.
you would have a link to each one of those individual nationals pages, which would be, like asca.org/nationals/2021. And that could be like the direct link. And then that could kind of, remain as an archive. And I'm sure that's kind of how she lays out the rest of the website. So I imagine that's probably what she would do.
That's what I was hoping, but I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll clarify it with her. Thank you, Judy.
Okay. Any other questions or comments about this? If no discussion, I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. So, okay, so the next one is the recognition of the 2020 finalists during 2021 nationals. Rick asked to get this on the agenda. We just so that the membership knows, we requested that the committees send suggestions or ideas to the board. I think that we're missing 2 or 3 committees. I think we're missing confirmation, obedience, and juniors, I think. But we do
I actually
have
had juniors, so I added it and it's an updated in there. So it was just confirmation and obedience.
Okay, so anyway, that was just background information for the membership. Go ahead, Rick.
Okay. Laura and her committee kind of requested this information. They feel strongly about supporting and recognizing these 2020 finalists that got caught up in the COVID and the cancellation of the 2020 finals. And they really would like to recognize these folks of their accomplishments. We did get some suggestions recognizing these 2020 dogs during the 2021 finals. We could do it during the reception, the finals reception, recognize those people there, or we could even the welcome banquet or the nationals banquet. There are some options, and Laura is just kind of wanting the board to pick an option that they can kind of piggyback on and run with, and to make it the best for these 2020 finalists and recognize those people for their accomplishments. So we need some discussion on how we want to recognize these folks and in what venue.
So Agility sent like 10 different suggestions. The Stockdog committee has one specific idea. I mean, regardless of what we do with those suggestions, I think that the finalists could be recognized in some way. during the 2021 nationals. I don't think that is necessarily one dependent on the other, but maybe you guys disagree on that. Anyway, since we want to have this discussion, I think that the best thing to do is to go around. So, Denise, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm finally done. So, are you wanting my opinion on each program or overall, or what are you asking for here?
Well,
Whatever you want to give us, Denise.
Yep.
Oh, thanks. Well, I do think that that Laura's idea is excellent, and that we should give her a specific spot so that they can put together some sort of a program. I know they're really good at the video things and that sort of thing, and to celebrate and appreciate the people from 2020 that could not, do a national finals. And if they're there, certainly recognize them, introduce them, whatever it takes. I just think that I know that the junior committee went ahead and sent something in. And I don't think that I don't think that they are going to do anything, because they're a standalone program, and so they just said, just we'll leave it how it is, and we can recognize kids that would be at the finals the same as anybody else, but not to have a second group of kids for finals. The rally, has information that we have on our thing. I think that each one of them has their own little. They don't really seem to know exactly what they want to do, but I do think that the biggest thing is that if they have the points built up for the national finals from 2021, and they are continuing in 2020 and 2021, they're still continuing. I would agree with being able to use their points, whichever finals points were higher, for 2021, especially if so whatever we can do to help these people out and certainly recognize them, I think is what we should do. I think they should get their ribbon as a participant, qualifier ribbon, and that would be a good recognition. We talked about a certificate before, but I believe that most of them thought that a ribbon would be better. And the Aussie Times ad, same thing, recognize the different winners, or they're not winners, but the different qualifiers, and also then go ahead with the points for 2020 or 2021, whichever is higher, to put them in the running for the top positions. And I think that's pretty much what I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Denise. Let me make a comment before we continue. Like I wrote before, there are problems in, it's going to be very convoluted to be able to have the finalists choose one score or the other. And what Ray actually would prefer would be, if we do any of this, is to combine both years, since both years are not going to have the number of trials that we usually have. And since all he has to do is give the system a query in which the times are changed. So it will start from June 1st, 2019 and end at May 31st, 2021. Okay. So that's one thing that we have to think about. But at the same time, I don't think whatever we decide with the points or whatever, I don't think that it should matter as far as, the 2021 committee finding some way to recognize this year's. I don't think one is dependent on the other. But anyway, I just wanted to clarify that. Gina?
Yeah, I agree with you that one is not dependent on the other. And I think that we should recognize the 2020 qualifiers. I was under the impression that they had the ability to order their participation ribbons, that we weren't going to provide it.
Yeah,
but
I
as
don't know
far
what
as,
happened to that, because we decided to allow it, and then I haven't heard anything from. So we'll have to check on that. And
yeah,
also,
exactly.
yeah, and we had also voted on the certificate. So regardless of whether they get a ribbon or not, they will get a certificate. And I haven't heard anything about that either, except that they haven't gotten them. So I'll check with Ray on that.
Okay, yeah, because like I said, I thought that they were going to be getting, if they wanted to buy a participation ribbon, in lieu of their entry fee, that they could do that. So I agree that we should recognize them at nationals, perhaps like through a slideshow or something like that, either at the welcome dinner or at the banquet. I agree that should happen. As far as points going forward for next year, I had actually talked to Andrea from the junior committee on something totally different. And she was saying that she felt, and they felt that, and I think this is very adult of them, that life happens. And so you just need to pick up from 2020 and go forward. So, I mean, I know that's very unpopular opinion, but I kind of agree. We're not responsible for all this that has happened. No matter what we do, it's not going to be fair to somebody. I was talking to somebody today about choosing between 20 and 21, and they're like, but the 2020 people, they had more trials in the beginning than what we're going to have to qualify for 2021. So that's not fair. And so I really don't know what the answer is, other than to just go forward. But I'm open to any suggestions. So that's all I have.
Okay. Jan?
Hi. Well, I think it's great if the National 2021 recognizes them. I would think maybe at the finals dinner, that could be a place so that people that really know those dogs could be clapping and supporting, because sometimes when it's at the banquets, a lot of the dogs aren't recognized, or it could be at both places. It's up to the Nationals Committee. On the point system, I would probably want to see both years if that's the easiest for Ray to do it. I'm not sure what this year is going to provide. It could be an interesting item. I'll go either way on what people feel about using, just saying, oh, well, 2020. I was disappointed that the junior committee didn't have a recommendation, because I always want the youth to have lots of support for their energy and time in all the programs. And having juniors that I'm involved with, I'm not sure that they're the ones that are on the committee. It's adults, and it's an adult decision that's being made. And I do think those kids need something, and I don't know exactly enough about the programs, because each of them are different, the performance versus the 500 club, how it could be worked out. But the kids are our future. So if we were going to do something for 2020, I definitely would want to do something special for the kids. But those are just ideas. Thank you.
Thanks, Jan. Jean?
Yeah, it would be really nice if we could recognize the 2020 finalists at the 2021 Nationals. I like Jan's suggestion of perhaps each program doing it at their finals banquet, recognizing the dogs and teams that made it, that qualified the year before. For juniors, every year they get their picture in the Aussie Times. Everybody who gets a high score, everybody who titles a dog, everybody who makes any level in junior handling. So thankfully they do get some recognition already. So, you know, maybe that's why Andy and them were kind of, we can just go forward. They also get checks from ASCA, the high scores and the different winners at the different levels. So that's a positive. Yeah, I don't have anything from my committee yet, and I'm searching my email, so I'm not sure how Obedience really wants to handle the qualifying for the 2021 finals. You know, like Ray said, it's easiest because the query, you just have to set the dates for 2 years. So that would be the easiest way to do it. If we wanted, you know, if they determined that they wanted 2020 finalists to have an opportunity to go to 2021, I think the qualifying period, you know, I could be wrong, but we could end up this qualifying period with, well, we already don't have as many trials and shows as we had at this point last year. So that may be, combining the 2 years may be the only way that somebody's really going to have a reasonable amount of points too. So just those are my thoughts on the matter. Thanks.
Thank you, G. Judy?
Yeah, one thing, recognizing the finalists at nationals, I don't know if y'all realize that's over 300 people that you would be reading off or putting something. I'm not sure that's gonna go. And even, you know, for stock, it's 90 people. For agility, it's over 100 people that you would have to recognize at a place, you know, at the finals banquet. But I wanted to read you off. I did get something from the confirmation committee, and I think it's a really good idea. We're going to have a nationals issue of the Aussie Times. It's going to have nothing in it. So the consensus of the confirmation committee would be to recognize the 2020 finalists with a photo op for the top 10 altered and intact in the Aussie Times, and a list of the balance of the top 30 altered and intact. The finalists should also receive a certificate and also have the opportunity to purchase a finals ribbon. We have, like, as I said, we're going to have an entire issue of the Aussie Times that could be put to use for that. They get recognized, it's in perpetuity, it's there, rather than try to do something at nationals. As Laura said, there's absolutely no time or room to run double nationals. The only problem I have with combining points personally is that for those dogs that weren't at the level to compete last year, there's no way they're going to make enough points to remotely get on the list if we combine points. So I would feel very bad that somebody who's competing in what few trials we have is not going to be able to go to finals because somebody was able to compete all last year. So I look at it that way. I feel like Gina does, and like the junior committee, it's an act of God, nature, however you want to put it. I think it's done, and we need to leave it, and we need to carry on. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Rachel?
Well, actually, from the Dropbox, what Andrea had said was a few of the committee members had a discussion, non-official, and we all felt that whatever confirmation finals did would probably apply to juniors as well, so we're waiting to hear on that. So that was her comment from the Dropbox that she had sent, but I am good either way. Whatever the committees decide, as long as the business office is able to process their request. And we have to be mindful of the business office and the margin of error that would come from anything that they would have to do that was manual. So with that said, I'm good with whatever the committees decide on that. In terms of recognition, I think that one of the things that Laura and those guys have done and done well, and someone else said it, is posting the pictures of the dogs, and it could be done in that way with the little running pictures that they post at nationals. I think it's important for everyone to see the dogs that worked hard enough to make it to finals in 2020. So by only doing it to the finals group, well, they know who those dogs are already. I think it's important for everyone at nationals to see who those dogs were that worked hard enough to make it to the 2020 finals. So again, Laura's running pictures to me would be a great method, because as Judy pointed out, it may be not doable to recognize individually each of those dogs. That's all I have. Thank you. Oh, and the other thing is we have members asking. So it's important that the committees understand we have members asking, how are the 2020 dogs and the 2021 dogs going to be handled? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Rachel. I'm going to skip Rick and I'm going to go to Warren.
Hi. I guess I don't have too much to add. I love the idea of doing something, especially for the juniors who really don't have another chance. I think we do have the benefit, at least for, if we want. It sounds like the sense of the board is we want to do something at Nationals 2021 to recognize, and we do have really 12 months of watching what other organizations do before we have to decide, is that a photo slide shoot, is that paper somewhere, is that physical thing, so knowing that we all want to do that, I don't think we need to actually decide what we do right now. I do think we need to decide on how we add up the points, and I think I'm going to go with Judy on that. 2 years for most of the dogs that compete, that's a huge portion of their competitive life span, and asking a dog to compete at that level for 2 years is really very, very different than asking them to compete at that level for one. And I think enough so that I'm not sure that's where I would want to go. So I do like the idea of having the 21 competition be based on 21, but having some recognition for the 20 for sure.
Thanks, Warren. Carol, do you have any thoughts on this?
So I do. I agree with you. I think that it would be really important if they're going to do something, to make sure we do something extra special for the juniors. I also agree with the fact, especially having competitive dogs, that it is going to make it very difficult if they combine the scores for the 2 years. For a dog that is able to run 2021. And I realize we're only 4 months into this qualifying year. And I know I'm always the light of optimism, but I think, there's a lot of year left. And I think we should I like doing the recognition of the 2020 finalists. Whatever, like Warren said, we don't have to say what it is, but do something at nationals for those people. And but I do think that people, and I know a lot of the people in our arena are asking, how is it going to be? Like, how are we going to have to qualify? And I really think that we should just make 2021 a qualifying year for the 2021 nationals and go with it, because it just, new dogs, like someone said about new dogs coming into the program, being able to qualify, if you combine those years, they are not going to be able to compete. So that's all I have.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to say my comments and then I'm going to go back to Rick. I think that the recognition of the 2020 finalists at the 2021 nationals will be great, and I think it should be up to the committee to find a way that is going to be more time and cost efficient for them to do it. So I wouldn't impose on them a specific way of doing it. I completely trust Laura and the team to figure out, what way they think it will work best. I think that what the confirmation committee has suggested about the pictures in the AT and all that, that is very doable. And we should consider it. And then the question is whether we want to consider it for everybody else, because of course we have the Stockdog finals, the agility finals have more people. And that will be a lot of pictures. So we will have to see who is going to get the picture and who isn't. I am a little bit unsure yet about what my position is about combining the scores. I think no matter what we do, I think, like Gina said, is going to be unfair to somebody. I think that by the looks of it, you know, this COVID thing is probably going to stay with us for a few more months. Because I think it's just going to rotate around the states. And so you're going to have some states closing and then some states opening. And so that's what's going to happen with the trials and shows. And I don't think that we're going to probably see any recovery in the trials themselves, in the number of trials and shows, probably until after Christmas. And then we have winter. So from some states, that's out. But that's how I see it. So I'm not sure, I mean, how many opportunities people are going to have to accumulate points to qualify. I think that, you know, like Warren said, you know, the Stockdog program seems to be doing a little better than the other ones this year. And that's because Stockdog, of course, can do things outdoors and it's much easier for them to comply with things. And so, you know, they have been able to have more trials than, say, confirmation shows, or, you know, the agility trials have gone down quite a bit. And it's because a lot of those events happen, you know, indoors, or, you know, and the states that are closed and not allowing gatherings, it just makes it difficult for affiliates to have their events. So I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. I think that in some ways combining the two would be beneficial for, say, obedience or something like that, or because they will be able to get their legs. There were a lot of people that didn't have, you know, the 3 legs by the time the year ended. And so that will open it up to other people who didn't have that opportunity. And then, you know, we also, you know, with obedience, you also have fewer people coming anyway. So I don't know, there's a possibility there. I don't know about Stockdog though. It's problematic. And the problem is that I would like it so that most of the programs kind of are doing the same thing, rather than having Stockdog being measured this way and being measured the other way. But it's problematic. But as far as 2021 having some kind of, you know, recognition and stuff, I say yes, go ahead. And I think that, you know, whether it's the pictures, you know, like Laura did in 2017, something like that, you know, that'd be great. So that's all I have for now. Rick?
I totally pretty much agree with what Liz just said. I think we can probably leave it up to the committee to decide how they want to present the 2020 finalists, as far as at a slideshow at the banquet, a slideshow at the welcome banquet, or, you know, how they want to do it. I think Laura and her team have done this enough. Like Judy said, there's a lot of dogs. So to personally recognize these guys might be difficult, just because of the amount of finalists there are. But I kind of would like to probably leave that to Laura and her crew and decide. As far as the 2020 finalists, you know, I'm kind of have mixed emotions. I'm real big on consistency. I think what's fair for one program ought to be fair for the other. And I don't know with having different ways of doing things for each program is the way to go. I don't know that that's fair. I think what we do for one program, if we calculate 2 years, then we need to do that for everybody. And I don't know if that's the way to go. You know, I also kind of feel like this COVID deal is an act of God, and it's not ASCA's fault. Believe it or not, it's not President Trump's fault. But just to throw a little humor out there. But
are you sure?
Well,
No,
that's not what they say.
Let that out of here.
Besides that,
Go ahead, Rick.
So maybe the fair way to go is, you know, 2021 finalists or the 2021 finalists, the ones that accumulate their points during their trial and period. You know, I really think that the board needs to kind of simmer on this. Let's look at this and make a firm decision next month. I would like to let Laura and her group know as far as the recognition. We're going to leave that up to them, but I really think probably we need to really think hard and long and make a decision maybe next month. And that's all I got.
We still haven't really heard from Obedience. So, yeah, I think that probably that's the thing to do. Have it on the agenda for next teleconference, the September teleconference. And, you know, I know that people are anxious to know, but hey, you know, these are not easy decisions. And it's not something that we should hurry. We still have a little bit of time. People, I assume, are going to play whether, you know, whether we make one decision or the other. I mean, people who are finalists are usually driven enough that they're going to go in and try to do, you know, what they can, the best they can. But I think that the best thing to do is to wait until September to make that decision, and then to allow Laura and her team to decide which way would be best to deal with the recognition at nationals, 2021 nationals. So if there's no other intervention, comment, question, or whatever about this topic, then I think then we can just leave that for next month, and then leave the recognition to the team. And then we can go on to the other big item, which is the 2021 nationals accounting, and that would also be Rick.
Okay. I guess the first question Laura had is, in kind of like Warren to chime in on this, is right now all of the accounting is being done on a spreadsheet, and she is doing finals on one tab and nationals on another tab. I would like Warren's opinion if that is sufficient, or would you like to work with Laura and her team as far as an accounting type spreadsheet or program to give you the information that you need?
Great question, Rick. You know, to me, there's only one way to do this. This is ASCA's money, and it needs to be going through ASCA's business office. There's absolutely no excuse for having some relatively unaffiliated person have signing authority on any of our accounts. This is completely wrong. And then to account for it on a spreadsheet is just plain wrong. This is not the way you do things in the 20th century, let alone the 21st. It's not the way you do things when you're trying to be $1 million company, which we are. This has to stop. It's wrong.
Okay. Would you mind if I had Laura get in touch with you and you guys can kind of hash this out? And
I can't do that, Rick. I cannot make processes for the business office. It has to come from Ray, and I think really directing him to do that has to either come from the board as a motion or from Liz as a direction.
Okay. Well, there's
let me interject here real fast, Rick.
Yeah, go ahead, Liz.
The rules specify that the chairperson, in this case for 2021, is Laura, and the bookkeeper get bonded and they take care of the accounting for nationals. If the board wants something different from that and they want Laura not to have access to the account and to have the business office also take care of all the accounting that goes into the nationals, which is a tremendous amount of work, I'm sure, then that has to be done through the appropriate procedure, through the rules. You have to make a motion and you have to get it through the board, get it discussed, and I would never do something like this on a teleconference, by the way. I think that this should be done through the voting cycle if that's what the board wants to do. Now, you know, we will have to discuss that if a motion such as that is done. The problem is that, you know, in some ways I understand Warren, because when we made the change from a club doing this to ASCA doing this and having that account attached to the ASCA account, then it made matters a bit complicated. Okay, so I'm not sure what the answer is, but what I'm saying is to change any of that, that has to be a process that has to go through the board through the appropriate procedures. That's it.
That's
all.
Liz, can I say something here? Are you going to go around on this?
Okay, so we're talking just about the first item, okay? So yes, I guess I'll go around. Denise?
Well, I totally agree with you on this. I know that Warren has never done a nationals, and I don't think he's been involved in a nationals. And I can tell you as a four-time chairperson that there really does need to be a separate account for nationals. And as you say, the rules have said that the chairperson is a signer, etc. That's already been laid out for that. And when you're planning this national, we don't have time to, and the office doesn't have time to write all of the checks and pay all the bills that go along with a national specialty. And that's why you have a nationals accounting person and like one or two people that can sign on the checks. And I do think that there needs to be definitely needs to be a separate account for the national setup. And yeah, I don't think that Ray in the office could keep up with what has to happen in the accounting department for a national specialty. That's
Okay,
just my
so
opinion.
Another clarification so that the membership knows and so that the board is aware. There is a nationals account that has been opened already, right? Because as I said, you know, the rules said that we had to. And so we opened a separate account. Now, that account, you know, the people who have the, according to the rules, the people who have access to it are the chairperson and probably the bookkeeper, right? And the entry clerk will be doing the deposits and all that stuff. Those people are going to be bonded. And Ray has already researched the price through the ASCA's insurance company. Okay, so he had I know there's an item here for bonding later, but I just want to make sure that you know how this is set up, okay, from the get-go. So these, for 3 people, you would have to pay around $1,200. So it's like a 3 people package deal, $1,200 or something. I think it was $1,250. And that would be for a coverage of 100,000. Now Laura had talked about making it 300,000, so I had asked Ray to find out what that would be, so he would get back to us with that information. But there is an account already done. That account is done in such a way that that Ray can look at it online, I could look at it online, and the treasurer can look at it online. So we can always check and make sure that, you know, nobody is like skimming money or something, which I really, yeah, you know, don't have any issues doing it that way, because they're, like I said, people are bonded. We have access to the account to see what's going on, and it's an account that is separate from the operations account that Ray uses for the everyday ASCA business. So in other words, the chair of the Nationals Committee, whether it's 2021 or whatever year, would not have any access to any other monies that have to do with ASCA. This is a separate Nationals account. So I'm sorry, it was long-winded, but I hope that everybody understands how it's set up. Okay.
Hey, Liz, on that separate account, so if the Nationals account gets an overdraft, the bank will somehow separate the funds and not take them from our operating account?
I'm not sure, but I think that's the case.
Really? You have something in writing
Ray
from the bank that actually says that?
I will have to look.
No, you don't.
Because I don't have the
You
paperwork.
don't. No. If they overdraft, the first thing that happens is they come to the ASCA account. And I'll tell you what, we have absolutely no controls. You have now just told me that not just the show coordinator or whatever we call them, but some secretary or bookkeeper also has signing authority on all accounts. I mean, this Liz, if I'm not mistaken,
it's not all accounts. It's just the Nationals account, just like it has been done every year.
Yes. Okay, great. I don't care if we didn't get taken to the cleaners last year. That's not the question. The question is, have we set ourselves up in a way that's appropriate, in a way that shows that we are acting as fiduciaries? And that is the issue here, because separate account, number one, isn't really separate. It's the same bank, and trust me, they will know where to get the money if something goes wrong. Number two, it's our money. We as the board need to be giving oversight, not a clerk that we have handed off authority to. This is ours. And really, I mean, I have one clerk in my office, and we cut over 300 checks a week. How many checks do they cut for the National? I mean, this is not that, I know it's a lot of work. I don't want to tell Ray, hey, just jump on this, but we need to think about, like, we're handing over the total authority on this thing. So yeah, when you say it's a separate account, I'm not so sure it is, and I don't think you have any written proof to show that. I think you're hopeful, but I know how banks work, and I can't tell you just how wrong this is. All I can do is say it's wrong. I'm an accountant. I'm trained as an accountant, It's just plain wrong.
Well, Warren, I'm not arguing as to the rightfulness of the arrangements. All I'm saying is this is how the rule is written. And so far, we are following the rules. And so any other changes, like I said, have to go through the proper procedure to be changed. That's all I'm saying.
I'm not worried about that. I think you're also giving assurances that this is a-okay, Liz, and that's different.
I'm not giving any assurances that anything is okay, Warren. Okay? I am not.
Because you know why we pay the auditor.
How it's been done. Okay?
Right? You know why we're paying an auditor every year.
Oh, I really do know about that, and it has nothing to do with nationals.
What it has to do with was a lack of oversight on the part of the board for past accounting. We need to know that it is our job to provide oversight, and allowing someone to have the ability to approve an expense, to submit that expense to the accounting system, which in this case an Excel sheet, and that's actually not that bad, but then also to sign off on it as a check. So these are three distinct tasks that should be separated in some way, and we've created a system where all three of them are done by one person. And this is a complete lack of control. It's not appropriate. I don't need to close it today, and I can wait to change the rule, or maybe we don't change the rule. But you can't, I mean, if Risk asks me the question, what do you think? I have to tell you 100%, there is no question. This is not the best way to do this. This is not an appropriate control for a company to implement a system like this.
Okay. So I guess I'm just gonna continue going on around, and then, you know, there is nothing we can do tonight about this. But I want all the directors to have an opportunity to have a say. So, Denise, anything else? No? Okay, Gina?
I totally get what Warren is saying, and I actually do agree with them. I understand how things have been done and how the rules are, and it's not that I don't trust Laura. I know from where I used to work, when we would have auditors come in, because we dealt with, you know, cutting checks for $50,000 multiple times per day. Their terminology was the ability for revenue leakage, which is another nice way of saying pilferage. But anyway, I think this is probably something that we need to have a meeting and separate just for itself, because, you know, if we want to do things properly, Warren is right. There needs to be changes made and rule changes made. So I would be up for a meeting just to discuss this and work out a program for this particular item. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Gina. Jen?
This hasn't been done before. That's the first thing we have to say. This has not been done before. This is now being run for ASCA. So these are all important issues, because we are setting what is going to happen going forward, and we want this to succeed. Now, my memory was the checking account couldn't just be a separate checking account. So I would really like verification on, is there a separate checking account? I think it would be much better if it was a separate bank and we provide money in, and so that there is some office, treasurer, whatever position that's responsible for some of that movement of money. In even our little local clubs are doing, a person takes in money, another person deposits, or one deposits, one writes checks, and one does all the accounting, just to make sure there is no issues. And I think it's really important. Like I said, This is the first time, and we know that Laura has done this before, and I understand the need to be able to do the writing at the site. So we need to make this secure, so whoever the 3 people are that are, I think, should be responsible for the ins and the outs and the accounting, are really responsible to ASCA and are not in any way accessible to the ASCA accounts. Thank you.
Thanks, Jan. Jean?
I don't really have much to add other than Warren pointed out some obvious deficiencies that slipped by us when these rules were made. And yeah, we haven't, 2020 was going to be the first year that this was tried. So luckily now we have time to regroup and reinvent. And I think we need a phone call to discuss the options and how this will work. And so that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Judy?
The only thing I have to say is thank you, Warren, for bringing some illumination to this that maybe we hadn't thought of before. Otherwise, I have no comment.
Thanks, Judy. Rachel?
It was my understanding that when the accounting rules were set in nationals, and Rule 1.8.1 says bank account for deposits, ASCA shall open a separate bank account for the purpose of depositing the nationals' entry fees and reservation fees. The bank will be a nationally available bank so that the entry clerk is able to deposit money collected easily. And that's on the bank account. And it was, again, my understanding that we worked with our auditor to ensure that that what we had set up was approved by him, and because we're bonding the entry clerk and the nationals chair for $300,000 or an amount to be determined by ASCA, that the bonding was enough to cover the issue. And on Section 5 of the Accounting and Financial Procedures, ASCA will establish a nationals checking account for each year's national specialty. And it goes on to say, the nationals chairperson will be the signer on the account. The ASCA treasurer and ASCA president will also be signers on the account, although approval for expenditures must come from the nationals chairperson. So I don't think that we just went off without knowledge, and I think that we tried to set this up correctly, because this is not work that the business office can take on. And if Warren would like to get with Ray and our auditor and discuss this, and if they can come up with a better solution, then we need to change the rules. But right now we are following the rules that this board approved. And so that's what I've got to say about the accounting principles. And Warren can, we appreciate Warren's knowledge. And if there are deficiencies, he's pointed them out. Hopefully he'll be able to work with our auditor to correct those. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. Rick, you have something to say?
We spent a lot of time on these accounting rules for nationals. This is, I understand where Warren's coming from, totally understand. And I agree with Warren. But the problem we have is Laura and her group, they already have checks that they need to deposit. They need to check an account that they need to deposit. Laura and her bookkeeper, which is Susan Byrne, need to be bonded. That they need to do that now. They're ready to do that now, but they need that from us. And there's so much that Laura and her group need to move forward. And I see this as not just a quick fix. going in and changing all these rules. Yeah, I think they probably need to be, but I don't see it happening just overnight. And that was kind of the reason of bringing some of this stuff up tonight, is Laura is wanting answers. So she's wanting an account that she can start depositing checks in. The 2020 account that we already have open, Liz, do you know if that account's empty or do they still have money in it?
They still have money in it, but you know, since Warren has brought up all this, I think maybe what we should do is close that account as soon as they take all that money out of there, and open another account and open it not on Chase, to make sure that there is no way that, you know, if something bounces or whatever, that is going to come out of ASCA's account. I mean, eventually we're going to have to deal with it anyway, right? If something like that happens. But we can at least have that one step.
Sure, and I agree. And that is something that Laura would like for us to give Ray the authority to open another account for the 2021 Nationals, and we can dictate it must be at a different bank other than Chase.
Right.
We also need to give Ray the authority to go ahead and get Laura and Susan bonded. This is something they're waiting on, and they're ready to move forward, but they need that okay from the board to go ahead and allow them to get bonded.
So you will have to make motions for that, because the money is going to be probably between the two of them is going to be over $1,000. And so I don't have this exact number if we do it for 300,000. But like I said, for 100,000, it will be $1,250 for the year to bond 3 people. So that's the only problem that I see with that. But if we want to say, just you want to make the motion in such a way that it just, you know, says we direct Ray to get bonding for Laura, and you know,
Liz,
then that would be enough. Yeah.
Liz,
yes, ma'am.
Section 5.3, bonding of chairperson and entry clerk, like I said previously, will be bonded by ASCA for $300K or an amount determined by the ASCA board.
Right. So we don't have to be three. We don't have to.
That's right. That is correct.
So would it be okay if I went ahead and made motions, at least for the checking account and for the bonding procedure to get those?
I think so, Rick. I think it will be fine, and then, you know, we can vote accordingly, according to our conscience, so to speak, and take it from there. I think I think that Warren's point is good, and I really don't know the answer. My guess is that he's probably correct, that if it's in Chase, even though it's a separate account, that Chase will look at something happening in that account and take money out from the other one. And
I agree.
So in that case, I mean, I hope that never happens, but to make sure that it doesn't, the best thing to do is to open an account in a different bank.
Hang tight just a second and think about it. Any account we open is ASCA's. Any liabilities that account incurs are ours. This is what you cannot separate ASCA from ASCA if ASCA owns the account. So whether it's at our bank or another, they go to another bank and start. I mean, they're not going to do it, but if they start doing some wires, we're on the hook because we're ASCA. So what we really need to do is say, are we comfortable being on the hook for this potential fraud? We have the bonding. Does that make us happy? There's no safety by getting a separate, you know, I don't know what you think the separate account is going to do, whether it's at Chase or anywhere else. This is our money. We are ASCA, and it doesn't separate just by adding a separate account.
Can I ask a question here? This is Denise.
Go ahead, Denise.
So it is true that it is ASCA. However, the national specialty is such a huge undertaking, and the monies are always kept separate for accounting purposes. If you put it at a separate bank so that there's no chance that it comes out of the ASCA office account, you have an overdraft protection for that account. At least I do for every account that I have. Each account has an overdraft protection, and it comes out of that. Yes, ASCA is ultimately responsible if the nationals couldn't pay for it, but for accounting purposes, the nationals should be responsible for the overdraft so that the accounting all balances out. It goes back to the exhibitor, et cetera, et cetera. But I just think that, I mean, I'm not an accountant and I'm not great with a checkbook, but I do know how to keep things separate. And I think that I do think that the accounting of it needs to be kept separate, because it is the nationals and back and forth things. It's too hard to keep the accounting separate if it's all one account, if it's all one thing. And as far as the bonding goes and the 300,000, you know, when we had our nationals in 19, it was a huge nationals, and I don't think that there was but just a short period of time that there was ever 300,000 in the account, because as things come in, there's, you know, the money comes in, there's also somewhere that the money has to go out. And so very short period of time was there 300,000 in the account. But I mean, I don't want to disagree with Warren on a professional basis like that. It's just that I think that he needs to, Warren, I think you need to take a look at how the nationals works within the ASCA organization. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
In a sense, you know, ASCA has always been responsible no matter what. I mean, we've had sometimes to, you know, when I say we, I mean ASCA, have to pay some bills that weren't paid. So in the end, you know, we have always been responsible because it is ASCA. So, but, you know, I agree that is not the best way to do it. My only concern is that putting this job on the office, it may somewhat cripple the committee in doing things fast enough and doing things on site and whatever. And also, you know, puts, you know, a burden on the office. You know, Sarah could probably take on something like this since she is supposed to be, you know, the person who is taking over finances in the office. But again, I'm not sure how well it's going to work. And I'm not sure that we have a way to make changes fast enough to help the 2021 committee. That's my fear.
Liz, you're going to keep going around, right?
Yeah, where was I?
I don't even know.
I don't know.
I tell you
Start
what, the
over.
only person that we haven't heard from is Carol, so let her go.
Well, I think that Warren had a valid point. I'm also think that what Jan said, I agreed pretty much with everything she said. And I guess the only thing I would say, I do think that understanding how to run an event, it would be very difficult to make it not have, I mean, those people have to be able to do things. So I guess I'm not an accountant, and I guess my thing would be to have Warren look at how the nationals is and see what comes up with, like, a way we can make it better. But it's what it is now, and the only way we can change it is to have a board director. I mean, you have to go back and do it. You can't just do it. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Carol. I believe Jean had something.
Yes, please. Yes. What I hear Warren saying, and I don't know, Warren, maybe you can, is that basically maybe we just need to take time, like a week, and really go over the processes. You know, I understand what the rules say, but I also understand, you know, our financial responsibility to ASCA. And, you know, we all know this isn't our money. So what I would allow somebody to do with my checkbook is entirely different than what I'm going to let somebody do with ASCA's checkbook. And this isn't about the people, this is about the processes. This is about, you know, it's not about anybody, it's about the processes. And he has shown us, Warren has shown us that we have a material fault with our process. And I'm not comfortable going forward knowing that we have that fault. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Jean. Do I need to go around again, or somebody has hands up, or what?
This is Gina. I do.
Yeah, go ahead.
I totally understand what Warren's saying, but I think that, and I understand what Jean's saying, but I mean, I feel that we're kind of like, we need to move forward now. We need to get going on 2021. Let's do it. And then in the meantime, set up the process that's going to be permanent from 2022 on. I'm comfortable with the people that are in charge of the 2021, that there's not going to be any problems. I just think if we back out now and try and change things, it's not going to get done in a week. And Laura needs to move forward now. So, you know, let's figure out what all the problems are and fix it for the following year, but let's move forward now and get going. Thank you.
Liz, this is Jean. I just want to say one thing again. Sorry.
Okay.
Last year, when we were talking to the people that were going to host, we opened up the account and nobody had signing rights on it except for ASCA initially. And that could be a semi-solution for right now. You know, if they need an account to deposit money into. I mean, and then we work with Warren on how we do the checks. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out as a possible solution for right now. Thanks.
Yeah, I think that last year you're right. That's how it was done. The account was open, but nobody was bonded yet. So the only people who have access to the account were Ray, the treasurer, and the president. So nobody else had access to that account. They could only go ahead and do deposits during that time, but they could not withdraw anything or write checks or whatever.
Correct.
Yeah.
Liz, this is Rachel, and the only thing I was going to say was what Gina said. Meanwhile, we have a process, and we have the 2021 club that needs to add checks. They need to deposit checks. They need to take sponsorship monies, because all of that's going to build their account. And so exactly what Gina said, their needs are right now. And we can go back and correct, change, modify, or whatever that we need to do to make us, you know, more accounting functional. But right now, the 2021 club needs our help.
Okay. So you know, the 2021. You know, I don't think that making changes like this is going to be done in a week. I'm sorry, but it can't. It took a long time just to get these rules done. And so I agree with Rick and with Rachel and Gina that there's no way that we can make changes that really look at all the possibilities, okay, and put all the safety guards in place in 1 week. It's just not going to happen, because the one thing that we have to make sure of is, if that was done, that the person in the office that's going to do that is able to do that. And so this is not just a matter of the board making some decision. This is also a matter of, bringing Ray into it and see what his thoughts are. And you can bet I'm going to write him an email tonight to see what his thoughts are. How could the office do this in a way that is not going to be counterproductive for them, in an efficient way, or whatever? Because I am not saying that Warren is wrong. What I'm saying is that these are the rules that we have now, and so far we have followed the rules. And so if there's any change that needs to be done, then we need to do it. But I mean, we're coming at a point here where it's going to be problematic for the 2021 committee if we go ahead and tell them, no, you can't do anything for now. And then it's also problematic if we try to, push changes in a hurry. I mean, that's not good for ASCA either. So I don't know.
So this is Warren. I could say one thing, Liz. I think you're spot on, and I want to correct someone. I'm sorry, I don't know who it was, but they said I brought to you or advised you of a material deficiency. Material is a very, very important word, and I don't use this as material deficiency. What I'm very interested and very excited about is making sure that we understand there is a deficiency here. We are allowed to operate with deficiencies, and when Rick first brought it up, I said, first thing we got to do is go to Ray. We may or may not have a better solution, but to say this is correct, that I think is not what I want to do. This is a deficiency. We're living with this risk. We've mitigated it through the bonding. Perhaps we're comfortable with it, but I just want everyone to be really, really clear. This is not normal. It's not considered appropriate. And if we are going to live with this, we all take risks every day. So,
Warren,
Somebody's
you
not
kicked
happy.
your dog.
Somebody's not happy.
that does not sound good.
No.
And Warren, I totally agree with you, and I am 100% on board to making this right.
Right.
But from this point, I think we need to, are you okay with us moving forward with a checking account other than Chase and initiating the bonding with Laura and Susan?
I honestly, I keep it with Chase. In deference to the person who was saying, I know how to do my checkbook. Accountants can manage accounts. That's why we get paid. So it's not a problem to have them at the same bank. I just want you to be aware, whether it's at the same bank or any other bank, this is our money, our name's on the account. Anything that goes wrong, we are responsible. We can push back on the nationals if, in fact, they haven't already gone to the Bahamas. But really, if the worst case happens, whether it's at Chase, whether it's at TD Bank or anywhere else, we need to know we're responsible. I guess that's it. So Rick, I don't even see the need to change the rule and go to another bank. I'm comfortable going to Chase. We just need to know that this is it's there, and I have every confidence that we can account for it properly, regardless of which bank it's in or which account it's in.
Okay. Liz, can I move forward with a couple of motions?
Sir, you can.
Okay. First motion, I would like to instruct the ASCA office manager, Ray Fryer, to open a new banking account for the 2021 Nationals.
This is Gina. I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion on the floor by Rick, seconded by Gina, to direct the business office manager, Ray Fryer, to open an account for the 2021 national specialty. Is there any further discussion? Okay, then I'm going to call a vote. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Okay. My second motion is I move to instruct the ASCA office manager, Ray Fryer, to initiate the bonding process for Laura Gibson, the 2021 chair, and Susan Byrne, the 2021 treasurer / bookkeeper, not to exceed $300,000.
I'll
Okay.
second it.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Rick, seconded by Gina, to direct the business office manager, Ray Fryer, to initiate the process to bond Laura Gibson, who is the chair, the Nationals 2021 Nationals chairperson, and Susan Byrne, who is the ASCA Nationals 2021 bookkeeper. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. What else?
And
you
there was
got,
a couple, and there was a couple of other bullet points that Laura mentioned here. She would like us to direct the office manager to work with the 2021 National Specialty contact, Heidi Mobley, to accept sponsorship via credit card. They feel like that will really help their sponsorship if they can take payments via credit card.
Right. I did talk to Ray briefly about that today, and he said that he had a couple of ways in which that could be done, but he couldn't give me all the details yet. So I'm not sure. I mean,
is that something we need a motion for, or can we just tell Ray to work with Heidi and let's get it done?
I think the best idea would be to tell him to work with them to see how it can be done, because I don't want to give him a motion directing him to do something that I'm not sure yet how it's going to work.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Would you, when your email to Ray, would you please have him reach out to Heidi and him to hash that out?
Absolutely.
And then the fourth bullet point,
Rick?
yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Rick, this is Denise. When we were talking about doing that the last time, the only difference with using PayPal or credit card is that there's a fee, I think, usually involved.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then they had to they had to be sure that there was a separate price for sponsorships that were going to be paid by credit card.
Sure. And I think Ray and Heidi is well aware of that, and they'll just have to upcharge it a little bit, $2, $2.50 or whatever to cover that fee.
Right. Okay, great. I just wanted to mention it. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Denise. And the last thing, and I'm not really sure about this, I'd have to talk to Laura. I don't know, Rachel may know a little bit more. To direct the office manager to work with the 2021 national chair to establish a method of taking money. That may be something that we incorporate when we start working on all these rules again. I don't know what she meant by that.
I think what she might mean with that is taking PayPal and stuff like that, because PayPal is a way to get paid and stuff, In the past, however, there were issues with doing that because, of course, as you know, PayPal has to be linked to an account. So in this case, they will have to work together to make sure that once this account is open, that they can link it to PayPal, so that so that they can take payments. I think that's what she meant. But
okay. And once again, I think that's kind of like the one before with the credit card. Ray and Laura can try to work that out, and once they get those new bank account open.
Yeah.
This is Jan.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that people can enter via credit card. The Europeans, they do not have checks. So we want to make sure that process is working.
Yeah, I remember doing some entries for a pre-trial and a pre-show, and they sent me actual cash. There were hundreds of dollars in one envelope. That was not good. So yeah, they need another method.
Hey guys, years ago, I can't remember how long ago it's been, there was a question that came up, and we were at a spring meeting, and our accountant was there. It was actually Tom. And the question came up about charging credit card fees, and the answer was the state of Texas doesn't allow that. And so, if I recall correctly, and so if there is an upcharge on this, it would have to be decided prior to, and because we can't, if I recall correctly, we cannot, the state of Texas doesn't allow that.
So you're saying that Texas doesn't allow the credit card companies to take
to charge a fee, right, for the use of credit cards.
Okay, so I have also noted this so that Ray can also make sure of.
Right. And that's why I'm adding this, because this has been years ago, and maybe things have changed. Maybe it's no longer valid. But if that is valid, we need to understand, like, if you charge $20, the fee's going to be $2 or $3 or what, you know what I mean? And that needs to be added into the price, because it can't be done after the fact as an upcharge for the credit card.
Right. Okay. I have noted it here to go to Ray.
And that's all I had as far as the last thing. I do want to say one more thing to Warren. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. I do think that we need to work on this, and we're definitely going to need your help, but thank you for showing us the right way. Thank you.
You're very welcome, Rick. And yeah, I'm sorry I got kind of tense about it. It's just it's not material. It's just a little scary.
Yeah, I know, Warren. I totally understand, and I think that you misunderstood what I was trying to say. I by no means say that the process is good. What I meant to say is that we have these rules and we're following them, and so we have to go through a process to change them and make them better.
Yeah. It may be good enough for now. It has to be good enough for now because, as they said, we got to get going. So I thank you, Liz. I understand.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you're done, Rick, with this item?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Good. Okay. Okay. So the last item is the directive to the Stockdog committee, and that will be Rachel.
Okay, guys. And so we have put a motion out there. Calla, do you want to read that motion, or would you like for me to read it? You have a much better voice than I do. So I would really appreciate it if you would read it to the board.
Sure, here you go. It is the revised motion by Vest to send a directive to the Stockdog committee to reduce the number of livestock required for the Stockdog finals. A response to this directive is due back to the board by September 4th, 2020. Second by Jan. The comments and rationale are: ASCA show and trial income has shown a decrease, and this may continue for the foreseeable future due to the dramatic decline in shows and trials as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and resulting quarantine. The most current financial statement from June 2020 shows a profit and loss year to date comparison of net income at negative $66,286.91 for June 2020 as compared to $8,557.50 for June 2019. The additional event membership dues have covered the majority of all finals during the time that it has been in effect to include the Stockdog finals. Decrease of shows and trials will result in a reduction of the event membership dues, which will leave the financial burden for all finals to ASCA. Taking this loss into consideration and the fact that the Stockdog finals cost to ASCA ranges from $28,000 to $42,000, it is incumbent upon the board to determine how to decrease this cost. Stockdog finals cost is inflated due to Stockdog Rule 24.8.3, which requires that stock can only be used once for the first go-around in each class of stock. Removing this requirement will result in instant decrease of Stockdog finals cost, thereby reducing finals cost to ASCA. Regarding the gate sorting and reuse of livestock, there is no proof that this methodology results in less of a chance of success for dogs and handlers than using the stock one at a time only for the first go-round. The gate sorting process will require a stock person that understands livestock to sort the stock into different groups due to the propensity of the same stock to offer themselves up first during the sorting process. This position will be chosen by the finals course director. Affected are the Stockdog Committee and Stockdog Finals contestants, and the effective date is immediately upon board approval.
Okay, do
Liz?
you have anything else, Rachel?
No, that's all I have. The motion stands. I will tell you that I did speak with the Stockdog Committee chair prior to sending my first motion to the board. And then again, he called me to discuss if I would consider revising my motion and sending it as a directive to the Stockdog Committee. And based upon the conversation with him and several of the board members, that's what convinced me to send it as a directive to the Stockdog Committee. He assured me that they could work on it in a short time frame, and if they could come to no conclusion, then the board would be welcome to do whatever we needed to decrease the cost. So that's all I have, guys.
Okay, so we have this motion that Carla has just read and comments by Rachel. And so I'm just going to go around. Denise?
I appreciate the fact that Rachel made this motion based on several of the last year, $24,000 in addition to funds to $40-some thousand in addition to the funds. That is for all finals. However, the Stockdog finals are the largest portion of it, as we could tell by the budget for 2020, that was going to be like $44,000 just for stock. So I appreciate the fact that she has taken this step. I know that there are a lot of people that are adamantly against this, but the fact that they trial all year on less stock per run and stock that has been used 4 times a day, they still have good runs. They still have good work. And I think that if they will work on just with the committee, have some suggestions on exactly how to separate the stock out, I don't think that there's a problem at all with anybody thinking that there would be any preferential treatment. You know, when you're there moving cows or sheep in and out, your idea is not who's going to be running and which cow you're going to pick. That happens. So I think that it's a fair thing to do. I think it's a necessary thing to do. ASCA, in its financial condition right now, needs to have this happen. And it's an unpopular motion, I'm sure, but I think it's a necessary one, and I would support it at this point. And I really look forward to hearing what the Stockdog Committee has to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Denise. Gina?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Rachel for changing this motion to a directive to the Stockdog Committee. That was my big bugaboo all along, was that it needed to go to the Stockdog Committee first. So I'm happy with that. As far as running less amount per head, that would be a hard no-go for me, or less head per run. This is a premier event, and to run 3 head of stock is ridiculous at nationals. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. The one thing Dan had called me right about 10 minutes before we started our meeting and had told me that he had talked to you, Rachel. The one thing I thought he did say was that he would like to have till October 1st, so the motion could be thoroughly thought out and presented. So, the September 4th, I don't know if they're going to be able to do that in a couple of weeks to really put thought into this motion. But other than that, yeah, I'm definitely for vote yes on this motion. Thank you.
This is Rachel. To answer you, Gina, I actually changed that due to the comments from board members. It said they should be able to do this in 2 to 3 weeks, and that's why we're voting on that tonight, so that we can go ahead and send it to the Stockdog Committee. And I think Dan had already mentioned this a month or so ago to the Stockdog Committee, so I think there's already some thinking there, and I think there's already some planning. So I truly don't believe that we are rushing them by asking for it in this period of time, because I think there was already some thought as to how they were going to handle it. Thank you, Gina.
Sure, I agree with you. I think they could, and I will vote for this motion with that date. But I would like to see if they have, because yes, Dan already has some thoughts going, and he's going to be trying to work with the committee to get them on board. What I would like to see is, that if they can't make the September 4th agreement and they're like almost there or actively working on it, we could revisit it and maybe give them an extra week or 2. I'm not for giving them months, believe me. We want this done now. So thank you.
And I do not disagree with you. And there have been times when committees have come back to the board and said, we're working on it, but we can't get it done in that time frame. But I think we're going to see the Stockdog Committee do it in a very short time frame. Thank you again.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just wanted the option just in case. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Jan?
Well, it is not a popular, but all year long, we trial on 3 head of stock that's been run 4 times. And the good dogs come out of that, and the not so good dogs sit where they belong. And I think it's time that the lower number, to me, presents a lot of better situations for the host club, better conditions for all the livestock, not being housed in as cramped as areas. I know everybody tries to give them as much room. There's just less handling of them. There's more areas for them to relax. So in the humane society of everything needs to be treated well, it looks a lot better when you have 75 head than when you have 150 head in an area. It just is going to be fuller. These facilities are not that big. So facilities wise and taking care of them, you're also going to have more of a benefit to choose from the cattle producers and not get maybe some of the more difficult livestock. So I've always been a component to go for this. It's been before the Stockdog Committee many, many more times than I found. I will say that when it was the 30 dogs, not 30, before it went to the 30, and it was 40 dogs competing in finals, they did run twice in the first go around. And I did not go look up where those statistics are, but somebody actually looked at where people placed and how it made any difference. And there was like half of the dogs on the top were in the beginning and half the dogs were in the top in the other end. And it really didn't make a whole lot of difference.
Wasn't
so hopefully
Linda that did that, Jen?
I don't know if it was Linda or if it was Rick. I really don't remember who did that.
I thought it was Linda Mahoney.
It was Linda Mahoney. And
Yeah.
I don't have
Yeah.
a copy of that.
I don't either. And I don't know if it's on the Stockdog list, but that's a worthwhile thing.
This was a personal study that she did after watching all of those dogs run that day. And it was in Colorado, 2009, I believe.
I believe that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jan. Jean?
I just want to say thanks to Rachel for, redoing the motion and, making those accommodations. And I look forward to seeing what the Stockdog committee comes up with. Thanks.
Thanks, Jean. Judy?
I agree with what everybody said. Thank you, Rachel, for making this a directive instead of a motion. And I do think the Stockdog Committee is going to take it to heart and actually work on this in a timely manner, since they know if they don't come up with something, we will. So I think this should pass as is, and I think it will do some good. Thank you.
Thanks, Judy. I'm going to skip you, Rachel, and go to Rick.
Yes, I think this was the right thing to do. Dan and I have a very close working relationship as far as the board and the Stockdog Committee. He calls me and asks if it's okay to call Rachel. He calls and asks, well, Liz called me today. I just want you to know. He's that open with me. He knows that something has to be done. He actually agrees something has to be done. Dan is a businessman, and he realizes they have got to do something. I'm like Rachel. The conversations have already started. I believe they can meet that September 4th deadline. If not, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But I believe we're doing the right thing, and if they choose to not cross that bridge, then by all means, the board has to do something about this. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Warren?
Yeah, so this is interesting because I feel very similar to the last one. I think, to run the Stockdog where it costs more money than it brings in every year, that's black and white. And it's, I guess I can't say it's wrong, but I mean, that's not the way you do things as a business. But at the same time, there may be reasons why we as a club want to spend more money on Stockdog finals than it will ever make. And that's a choice we can make. For the motion that's in front of us right now, absolutely support going to the committee and asking them to find ways to cut the funds. It doesn't say, I don't believe, whether it's temporary or permanent. We may find in a few years that revenue's back up and we can change things. But for now, I think this is really, it's another one of those tough choices that we have to make. It's not going to make a lot of friends, but it will really help if we can have, as much as $20,000 back in our pockets.
Thanks, Warren. Carol?
Okay, you said I could talk.
Yes, ma'am.
So I will just say a couple of things. First of all, thank you, Rachel, for putting this forward. I am on the Stockdog Committee, and I assure you that I'm sure it's going to get a lot of attention, and I think they will make their deadline or be awfully darn close to it, if not. And so I think they'll have some answers for you guys. Going forward, I will say this also. I just spent an entire week, 5 days, and I was privileged to have the honor to actually be asked to help, kind of impromptu because someone had gotten sick and I was there, with the timing and the judging of the Mountain State Stockdog Association finals. And they ran 150 runs a day, 5 days in a row, and they ran on 3 head of cattle every day, with the last go around in the open being on 5 head. So all of that being said, I will tell you that they did a phenomenal job in having cattle that were quote unquote even. And there was, from the first run of the first day to the last run of the last day, and trust me, I saw them all because I scribed, there was no difference in the cattle, and no one of the 5 days, this was rather refreshing for me, not one person, handler, or anybody complained about anything. It was pretty phenomenal. That being said, so we know it can happen. Okay, I mean, I witnessed it firsthand. It can happen. This is going to be the first year that ASCA took this over, and it's their baby. And people in the stock community, so let me back up one step. So sorry, Warren, one thing I will say is that this is a stock dog breed. It always has been, and it says right in our mission statement and in our description that that's what we are. And I think if we're going to showcase our dogs as to what they are, not taking away from any of the other venues, because I totally admire those people and all the things they do with their dogs, and I love seeing it, and I love having our dogs do that. But to say that this is not worthwhile you're going to, yeah, we don't want to have that discussion. So going forward, I do think that it is going to be up to ASCA to show that, okay, yes, and everybody, I think, is aware of the fact that, hey, it's costly. Like, we all participate, we all go to them, we all help put them on. Like, we know, trust me, I know exactly how much cattle costs. So we all know, I know, ducks eat a lot. And Rachel, kudos to you for taking that on this year. But it is up to us to have a premier event. Like Gina said, this is a premier event. We should be able to showcase our dogs doing the work. We shouldn't have to be dog breaking stock. We shouldn't have to be, and this has always been one of my biggest sticklers about the whole thing about nationals, is that we're there to showcase our dogs and what they can do. It doesn't mean that the animals have to just walk through stuff by themselves, but none of those animals at 150 runs 5 days in a row would have went through anything if the dogs didn't make them go there. But at the same time, the dogs were able to show that the level of training they had, the level of ability the handler had, and they could get it done. So it is doable. It was an amazing event. It was professional. I want ASCA to be that event. I want people to come away from there saying the things that we came away saying about that. And it is going to be on ASCA to show the rest of us that, yes, we can do this. And I totally believe we can, and that is very doable, but there is going to have to be some things put in place to make that happen. So I'm glad I'm on the Stockdog committee. I look forward to working on this, and I'm glad that I will be on the board next year, because I know that we can make. The other thing is I can find out a few more details about it, but they did not lose money on that event. That was their whole event. So there's a way to do this and not lose money. That's all I'm saying. And I don't know. The other question I did have, and it's somewhat related, is the event fees from 2020 that were paid in on the trials that were held. So does that money go forward to 2021, and how much money is it? And that's, I guess, all I have. But it is kind of been a question amongst some of the discussion about, like, what happens to that money if we didn't have a nationals, now what? So anyway, that's all I have.
All right. So Warren can correct me if I'm wrong, but the money that we have for nationals from last year is 20-some thousand. And yes, it will be used for, that's what the money is for. It is for finals. So we didn't have them this year. So that money is going to go towards 2021. That's what the money is allotted for. We really can't use it for anything else. So it has to go for it. Is that right, Warren?
Yes, it accrues every year. This is Rachel. It accrues every year, and it remains there if it's not spent, only to be used for finals, all of finals.
Okay.
But remember, there's not a lot of money coming in this year, so.
That's
No,
right.
well, yeah, exactly. So
That's right.
it's 20 something thousand, right?
Yeah, I think 28 is what we earned last year, and so that's sort of sitting there waiting. There's actually surplus left over from some prior years, and then there is a small amount. Gosh, I don't remember if it's like $500. It's really small for this year so far.
Oh my gosh, really? Just $500?
Oh
That makes
no,
me
I think
cry.
the 500 was the Stockdog, but as I said, they just happen to be the highest, which is
Yeah.
it's an
Unusual.
abnormality simply because
Yeah.
no one else can compete.
Right.
Liz, this is Rachel. Can I say one more thing and then I'll be quiet?
Okay.
All right. So I've been trying to train the stock dog since the mid 70s. Okay. I've been competing since the 80s when we started a stock dog program in Georgia. Of all people sitting here, I'm probably the only person who ever only worked stock. That's all I've ever done. That's all I want to do with my dogs. I have watched this year after year. I have watched dogs have to fight for their life in the finals arena. And to Carol's point, we should never put cattle out there that puts our handlers and dogs at risk. We've seen legs broken. That happened at the first Georgia show. We thought we had everything set up properly. We did not. We should never put our handlers and dogs at risk. Sometimes they do things to put themselves at risk, but we should not do that by putting stock out that are not dog broke. Dan and I discussed that at length. We've discussed that before. That 10 minutes that you have to showcase your dog should not be spent breaking livestock. So going forward, whatever ASCA and the finals and the nationals committee must do and the finals course director must do is to provide sound workable stock to the finals dogs and of course nationals. So I just wanted to add that in because this does need to be ASCA's premier event. We need to view this and be sitting there and clapping for each dog that has done their best to be out there on the trial field. So this motion is a big deal to me, guys. It's huge. And so I just wanted everyone to understand that coming from where I come from, this is important. This is important for ASCA monetarily. It is important for the stock dog finals and nationals to have good workable stock. And that is why I added the sentence in about the sorting of stock. Because if you put someone on that sort gate that does not understand livestock, you might get the same sort over and over again. So that's all I have. I just wanted to tell you guys, this one hits home for me. This is all I've ever done for ASCA. This is all I will ever do is work a stock dog. Thank you.
So can I say one more thing? Sorry, I know I'm not really supposed to be saying a whole bunch, but okay. I will tell you the one other thing I will say, and this is confirming what Rachel said. This is a big deal. And I will tell you, and not just to the people who participate in it, but that Mountain States group, 3 years ago, they were nobody. This year, they are the leading stock dog association in the world. They've grown 3 times from their original numbers. They've tripled their numbers to this year's finals. And they did it because they made a commitment that they were going to be able to showcase their dogs. And people have jumped ship from all the other organizations, and even NCA is failing, which was the leading cattle dog association up until last year, and has now been greatly surpassed by them. And the same thing will happen. I'm telling you right now, and I will tell you for a fact, the same thing will happen because I just went to a cow dog trial that they put on last week. And because of some of the things that came out of their finals, there were 3 Australian Shepherds, I'm proud to say, that were there representing our breed. And people that play in this venue that are players will go where they can play. And if that's where they can play and showcase their dog, I take my dogs. I take my dogs because I want to show that Australian Shepherds can do the work. And so do the rest of the people that are players. And so I will tell you right now, like I said, ASCA has a spotlight on them. You guys are putting this thing on next year for the first time since this year canceled, all by yourselves, so to speak. And it is up to us to show that, yes, we can provide this venue the way it should be, and that we can do it and showcase our dogs for what they are. Because if we don't, people are going to go somewhere else. So just saying.
Thank you. We'll only add a couple of comments because, as usual, everybody gets a turn, and I'm left off. First of all, I want to thank Rachel for changing the motion. I think this was the right thing to do. I put a lot of importance in including the committees in big decisions like this. And I think that we'll see that the Stockdog committee will come up with something. I think that they'll find whatever works best to reduce the stock. As far as the cost, Stockdog finals is probably never going to pay for itself. I mean, we may have a different thing this year, I don't know, but it's probably never going to happen regardless of how much we reduce the stock. But the Aussie is a working dog first and foremost, and so therefore we are always going to pay for the Stockdog finals. Of course, with our situation the way it is, that doesn't mean that we can't try to be a little bit more responsible, in the way that we, handle those costs. And so that's why we are tasking the Stockdog committee to come up with some way of doing that. So anyway, that's all I'm gonna say, and I think it's time to call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Yippee!
All right, we're done. This was a marathon of a meeting. We have reached my 3-hour limit, but not went over. So we've done good. So
1 minute left.
yes. So thank you so much, guys. Thank you to all the members who are listening to the recording. Have a good night, and thank you for a productive meeting.
Yeah.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.